The mistake often starts with the most reasonable thing. The leaves wilt, and your hand reaches for water. The leaves are hanging. The soil looks dry. By noon, the whole bed looks like it has given up. But this is where the rescue can go wrong. If the soil underneath is still wet, that watering may not save the plant. It may push oxygen-starved roots deeper into stress. It may hide warning signs inside the stem. It may make you miss tiny mites draining the leaves from underneath. And it may make you think you are saving the plant, while the flowers meant for your July harvest quietly fall off. A wilting tomato plant is not always asking for water. Sometimes it is leaving a warning. And if you read that warning wrong in June, there may not be much left to harvest in July. This is a 7-day emergency check. Water, rescue, isolate, or remove. Then, day by day, you decide what to stop, what to protect, and what must leave before July is lost. But the first step is the one most gardeners skip. Before you water, make sure the plant is actually thirsty. Line up 4 wilted tomato plants under the June sun, and by noon, they can all look like the same problem. Leaves hanging, stems soft, soil dry on top. But the surface can lie. So before you try to save every plant, choose one. Not the worst one, the confusing one, the one that almost looks okay. One plant may only need water. By evening, it could stand back up like nothing happened. One plant is stressed, but not finished. One plant needs distance, at least until you know whether disease is involved. And one plant, as painful as it is, may need to come out before your tools, time, or soil carry the problem further. That is the June trap. At noon, the plant that needs water and the plant that may need to be removed can look almost the same. Treat them the same, and you may save the wrong one. Before the rescue begins, answer one question. Which plant are you actually looking at? Your hand will want to move fast. The hose, the spray bottle, the fertilizer, the pruning shears. Don't. For 60 seconds, do not fix. Read. Start with the lie you can see. The dry crust on top of the soil. Push your finger 2 inches down, where the roots actually live. If it is dry there, water stays on the suspect list. If it is still damp, the hose stays off. Then rewind last night. When the heat let go, did the plant stand back up? Or was it still hanging in the dark? If it lifts at night, that is one clue. If it does not, that is a different warning. Look at the stem. A brown streak low inside the stem may mean the water pathway is being blocked. And if the plant suddenly wilts while the leaves are still green, that is when the glass of water test comes later. Then turn over the leaves. Hold a white sheet underneath. Tapons. If the dust begins to move, it was never dust. Now look at the losses. Flowers, split young fruit, a black, sunken bottom. Those are pieces of the same case. Skip them, and you are not rescuing the plant. You are guessing. Day 1 starts with this rule. Do not treat the plant before you diagnose the plant, because most gardeners do not ruin recovery by doing nothing. They ruin it by helping too fast. On day 1, every part of you will want to do more. More water, more spray, more fertilizer, more cutting. Don't. The first rescue is restraint. Stop the thing that may already be pushing the plant downhill. If the soil is still damp, put the hose down. If the leaves are wet when the sun comes up, stop soaking the plant from above. If you have not looked under the leaves, that spray bottle has not earned your trust. If flowers are falling, do not panic feed with nitrogen. Falling flowers are not small losses. And if one plant wilts green, does not recover overnight, and looks wrong beside the others, treat it like a suspect, not a thirsty plant. Day 1 is sorting. Mark the weak plants. Check soil, stem, and leaf undersides. Remove only what touches the soil or is too diseased to help. Then stop. That pause is the first rescue. A tomato plant does not need your reflex. It needs your diagnosis. And tomorrow, we reset water, because that is where a July harvest can quietly split open before it ever turns red. The tomato that splits in July often starts cracking in June before you ever see the split. One dry day, then heavy water, then another dry stretch, then rain. To the roots, that is not rhythm. It is drought, then flood. And you may not see the mistake when you water. You see it weeks later, split across the skin of the fruit. A tomato skin can only stretch so fast. When soil swings from dry to soaked, The inside swells faster than the outside can hold. And the black, sunken spot at the bottom? Often, it is not simply that the soil has no calcium. It is that water has not stayed steady enough to move calcium into the fruit when the fruit needed it. So day 2 is about rhythm. Water deeply in the morning. Water at the base. Stop wetting the leaves. Do not let the soil go bone dry, then flood it back. Cover the ground so moisture leaves slowly. You are not watering today's leaves. You are deciding whether next month's fruit cracks, rots, or keeps growing. But water is only one suspect. Because tomorrow, we look under the leaves. By day 3, you may think the story is still under the soil. It is not. Under the leaves, the top may look pale, silver, speckled, like the sun burned it. But the sun is above, and sometimes the thief is underneath. Hold a white sheet under the leaf. Tap once. Wait. If the dust begins to move, it was never dust. In hot, dry weather, spider mites feed from underneath while gardeners blame the sun above. And if you spray blindly, you may remove the helpers before you remove the problem. Then look lower. Old leaves near the soil. Ring spots. Yellowing from the bottom. Those are not just ugly leaves. They can keep throwing trouble back onto the plant. This is rescue, not cleanup. Turn the leaves, check the paper, remove the lowest diseased leaves, and open the base just enough for airflow. But do not strip the plant bare. Bare fruit burns. A rushed gardener sees ugly leaves. A better gardener asks which leaves are still feeding the harvest. And tomorrow, we go to the place where many tomato harvests disappear before a single fruit is born. The flowers. At eye level, the plant may look fine. Green leaves. Strong stems. New growth at the top. But lower your eyes. Under the plant, the future harvest may already be drying on the soil. Those yellow flowers are not decoration. They are the doorway to July. A green plant can hide an empty harvest. The plant is alive, but the fruit never begins. On day 4, look for the flowers. Fresh flowers just opened. Dried flowers under the plant. Clusters that bloomed, then quietly gave up. On a dry, still morning, touch the support and give it one gentle shake. Just enough to help the pollen move. Keep the soil evenly moist so the plant can hold flowers. And if flowers are already dropping, do not panic feed with nitrogen. More green does not mean more tomatoes. Do less forcing. Help the right flowers stay. Every fallen flower may be one July tomato that never forms. But tomorrow is where this gets tricky. To protect the flowers, you may reach for shade. And shade can save a flower today, while stealing strength from the fruit tomorrow. On a brutal June afternoon, shade feels like mercy. Leaves sag. Flowers weaken. Soil bakes. So you cover the plant. At first, it feels right, but shade is relief. Darkness is a different stress. Too much heat can make flowers drop. But too much shade, especially thick shade all day, can starve the plant of the light it needs to feed fruit. The stems stretch. The fruit ripens slower. The plant looks protected, while quietly getting weaker. Day 5 is where protection can turn into a second stress. You are shaving off the worst heat, not stealing the whole day. For most tomato plants, 30 to 40% shade is a safer start. Protect the brutal afternoon, but keep morning light and airflow. If you can choose, white or reflective shade is usually kinder than black cloth that traps heat under the canopy. Mulch the base so moisture does not vanish in one hot afternoon. Prune like you are removing risk, not removing leaves. Cut diseased leaves. Cut leaves touching the soil. Open the base just enough for airflow. But do not strip the plant bare. Those leaves shade young fruit. They feed growing fruit. Cut too much, and you expose the fruit to the sun you are trying to block. Shade should reduce heat, not steal light. And on day 6, we stop asking whether the plant looks better and start asking what the young fruit is telling us. By day 6, the leaves can still look hopeful, but the fruit is harder to fool. A young tomato is a small green record of the last few days. If the skin begins to split, look backward. Dry soil, sudden water, rain after stress. If the bottom turns black and sunken, remember the water rhythm. If one side turns pale and burned, ask what used to shade it. And if you find a small bite mark, then dark pellets under the plant. Start looking before sunrise or near evening. The worm may be gone by the time you see the damage, but the evidence is still there. Protect what has not failed yet. Keep moisture steady. Check behind stems, under fruit, and along chewed leaves for hornworms. Because one damaged fruit is not just one damaged fruit, it is the plant leaving a record. It tells you what went wrong before the fruit had a chance. And if you read that record now, July still has something to give you. But tomorrow is the hardest part, because not every plant that survived the week has earned the right to stay. Day 7 is not about perfection. What matters is direction. Is it recovering faster at night? Are the new leaves cleaner? Has the flower drop slowed? Are the young fruits still growing? And the sick plant, is it staying contained or pulling more of the bed into trouble? This is where hope can become dangerous. A heavy harvest comes from deciding before one failure becomes the bed's problem. Now the bed has 4 verdicts. Green tag, keep, plants that recover at night, hold flowers, and keep fruit moving. Yellow tag, rescue, light mites, light leaf disease, flower drop that is slowing, not spreading. Orange tag, isolate, stem or root warning signs you cannot explain yet. Handle them last. Clean your tools. Do not carry sap, soil, or residue back to healthy plants. Red tag, remove. Sudden green wilt that does not recover. Severe stem warning signs. Black, soft, collapsing roots. A plant declining fast while every rescue step fails. If the stem and water test shows milky streaming, do not call it thirst. If disease is suspected, do not compost that plant. Bug it. Get it out. Because the plant you keep out of pity may cost the plant still ready to produce. One plant removed at the right time may be why the rest of the bed gives you tomatoes in July. A recovering plant does not always look beautiful first. It starts by keeping what matters. Start with evening recovery. If the plant stands back up faster when the heat fades, it is no longer collapsing the same way. Then flowers. Not every flower will stay. But if the new ones are no longer falling in waves, July is still possible. Then young fruit. If they grow more evenly, if fewer split, if fewer black, sunken spots appear, the rescue is helping the plant keep the harvest. Measure flowers that stay, fruit that grows, and recovery that comes faster. But if none of those signs appear, do not guess harder. Go back to the first clues. Because one final mistake can still erase the whole rescue. One mistake remains, and gardeners usually make it out of kindness. Do not love one tomato plant so much that you risk the plant still ready to produce. If a plant still does not recover, if it suddenly wilts while the leaves are still green, if the stem or roots show serious warning signs, if the roots are black, soft, and collapsing, or if the problem keeps moving faster than the plant can fight, do not keep it just because it is hard to let go. If disease is involved, it can remain in soil, debris, or on tools. And while you are trying to save one plant, the others may still be preparing to feed July. So protect the bed. Not just the plant. It comes from knowing what to save and what to release before it costs you more.